In Kenya, there is not enough money to complete the new 1,000-kilometre superfast railway from Mombasa to Uganda. It ends suddenly in the countryside, 468 kilometres short of the border. Now Kenya is determined to finish the route by unearthing the 19th century British-built tracks that passed that way, using machetes to clear the way. It is a markedly low-tech approach compared to the grand vision portrayed by China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. China has lent African countries hundreds of billions of dollars as part of President Xi Jinping's BRI, which envisioned Chinese institutions financing the bulk of the infrastructure in mainly developing nations, yet the credit has dried up in recent years. On top of the damage wrought to both China and its creditors by the CCP, Chinese Communist Party virus, also known as COVID-19, analysts and academics attribute the slowdown to factors such as a waning appetite in Beijing for large foreign investments, a commodity price crash that has complicated African debt servicing, plus some borrowers' reluctance to enter lending deals backed by their natural resources. We are not in the go-go period anymore, says Adam Tooze, a Columbia University historian, talking about China's overseas investment projects. There is definitely a rebalancing from the China side, said Tooze, adding that Beijing's current account surplus was dwindling somewhat. Chinese investments in the 138 countries targeted by BRI slid 54% from 2019, down to $47 billion last year, the lowest amount since the BRI was unveiled in 2013, according to Green BRI, a China-based think tank that focuses on analysing the initiative. In Africa, home to 40 of these BRI nations, Chinese bank financing for infrastructure projects fell from $11 billion in 2017 to $3.3 billion in 2020, according to a report by international law firm Baker McKenzie. This is a blow for governments who were anticipating securing Chinese loans to build highways and rail lines linking landlocked countries to seaports and trade routes to Asia and Europe. The continent is facing an estimated annual infrastructure investment deficit of around $100 billion, according to the African Development Bank. Hold-ups have hit some other BRI projects across the continent, such as a $3 billion Nigerian rail project and a $450 million highway in Cameroon. Officials in Kenya said its rail routes were long-term projects that will be seen through over time, without giving any specific time frame. The government has already spent about $5 billion on its new rail link, and can't currently afford the additional $3.7 billion needed to finish it. The last station hooked up is only accessible by dirt roads. Hence, engineers in the Rift Valley are no longer building new infrastructure, but rather shoring up colonial-era viaducts and bridges in an operation that the government estimates will cost about 10 billion shillings, $91 million. There are knock-on effects and, over the border in Uganda, construction on a modern railway line has been delayed because it's supposed to link to the Kenyan one. That has been one factor in the hold-up in the $2.2 billion loan from the Export-Import Bank of China, Exim Bank. David Mugabe, spokesperson for Uganda's standard gauge railway project, told Reuters. In Nigeria, the government turned to London-headquartered Standard Chartered Bank this year to finance a $3 billion railway project initially slated to receive Chinese backing. In Cameroon, the $450 million highway linking the capital, Yaoundé, and the economic hub of Douala, whose funding was secured from China's Exim Bank in 2012, stalled in 2019 as the bank stopped dispensing further tranches of the loan. The pandemic has added to the obstacles facing President Xi's self-described project of the century. After peaking at $125 billion in 2015, Chinese investments into BRI nations have dropped every year, apart from 2018 when they edged up 6.7%, the green BRI data showed. In 2018, Pakistan balked at the cost and the finance in terms of building a railway with China. The previous year, there were signs of growing problems with BRI after China's push in Sri Lanka sparked protests. Aid Data, a research lab at the College of William and Mary in the United States, said in a study at the end of September that $11.58 billion in projects in Malaysia have been cancelled over 2013 to 2021, with nearly $1.5 billion cancelled in Kazakhstan and more than $1 billion in Bolivia. As reported by Reuters, Brad Parks, one of the study's authors, says a growing number of policymakers in low and middle income countries are mothballing high-profile BRI projects because of overpricing, corruption, and debt sustainability concerns. A key problem is debt sustainability. Copper producer Zambia became Africa's first pandemic-era sovereign default last year after failing to keep up with payments on more than $12 billion of international debt, for example. A recent study suggested more than half of that burden is owed to Chinese public and private lenders. In late 2018, Beijing agreed to restructure billions of dollars in debt owed by Ethiopia. Some African governments are also growing more reluctant to take out loans-backed commodities such as oils and metals. We can't mortgage our oil, Uganda's Works and Transport Minister Katumba Wamala told Reuters, confirming the country had refused to pledge untapped oil in fields in the west to secure the railway loan. The finance squeeze means African governments must make more strategic investment decisions in terms of debt sustainability, says Yvette Babb, a Netherlands-based fixed income portfolio manager at William Blair.